I know I haven't uploaded here in a long time, and I know I promised videos on the main channel, but TLDR, been busy, haven't been home alone to record. Anyway, let me move on to what I actually want to talk about. So, Deltarune Chapter 5 recently came out, and I have to say it was fun. I have an original series, or speculation, on the regular route, so do expect this to come out later. Hopefully. Either way, I am here to talk about Side B, or the Weird Route. I'm just gonna call it Snowgrave. After watching a YouTube video on what happens during Snowgrave and all the series around it, I'm kind of pissed at the fact that no one was talking about something that was staring them right in their eyes. And that relates to the title of this video. What might it be? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Noelle isn't talking to Kris. She's talking to you, the player, during the lake scene. So, why do I think this? Well, to start things off, when you start talking to Noelle, she explains her backstory and says a Noelle that has to do Noelle things, then moves to a Kris that has to do Kris things. And then she says a line like, Kris hasn't been doing Kris things, stuff, something like that. And because at that moment, well, Kris isn't Kris. We have been controlling Kris, so Kris hasn't been doing Kris things because we're pretending to be Kris. So another thing that I do also want to point out is that when you play Deltarune normally, you really don't like have any fights or strange scenes with Kris. That is until you do Snowgrave. Kris seems to hate you more than usual, especially in Chapter 4 when you put the thorn ring on Noelle. Kris is hurting. Kris hates that you did that because Kris cares. Kris cares about... Give me a second. Is Kris from Deltarune a boy or a girl? Oh. Kris cares about their friends. Kris has a bond with Susie. Kris grew up with Noelle. When you hurt them, Kris is upset. But in that moment by the lake, Kris isn't Kris. You are Kris. Which is why Kris isn't doing Kris things. Because you have taken control over Kris. The one moment that stands out to me, and it's like the one thing that I think Toby Fox did well in the scene, if what I'm saying is correct, is that when Noelle starts to drag you into a lake, as she does that, her shadow is covering Kris. And this is when you're finally told to proceed or not. Her shadow is covering Kris. Only Kris's silhouette is there. And you, the one who is pretending to be Kris. I feel like Noelle knows that someone else is controlling Kris, but doesn't know who, which is why she covers Kris with her shadow, to at least in some way acknowledge us, to let us know, hey, Kris isn't here at this moment. This moment is between Noelle and you, because Noelle is speaking to you. That was actually going to be the end of it all, of my weird theory on this, until I went back to look at the video. And Noelle is still covering Kris all the way up in the lake, the more and more you proceed, until you start to drown. You see Kris again. And as this comment points out, the second you see Kris tries to save Noelle from drowning. Kris cares about Noelle. I don't know what Snowgrave is going to show us, but I feel like one thing can happen. This route, Kris will end up hating you, the player. Okay, so while actually editing this video, I actually got a thought, and this again could be a theory, and like I said, a theory. This could be wrong. I could be wrong. Everyone could be wrong. Who knows? This is Toby Fox we're talking about. But I feel like with Snowgrave and me saying, hey, Kris is going to hate you, I have a strange feeling that since you skip chapter 6 in Snowgrave, that for chapter 7 you're going to be you're gonna like see some weird stuff. Like chapter 5, the Dark Fountain never got closed. Chapter 6, Dark Fountain is gonna open up, and hey, guess what? We can't close that one because we're in the lake right now. Chapter 7, I feel like it's going to be like this sort of apocalyptic sort of setting, which would be like really cool and really interesting. And this is all like speculation. There's like no evidence to back this up, but I feel like this will be sort of the bad ending, like the the bad ending, the terrible route, the evil wins moment, because like I said, Kris will end up hating you. Kris will despise you, the player, so much in Snowgrave that I just wonder, will Kris permanently remove you from their body? And in doing so, the roaring night, will find you and absorb you. Thus, in the final battle for Snowgrave, it's you, the roaring night, versus Kris. Which would be kind of cool, but like I said, this is all speculation. I could just be wrong. Hello again. Thank you for watching. I know this is something new, but I just had to make it. Felt so pissed off that no one has been talking about how Noelle's shadow was covering Kris, but I could be wrong in the end. Hopefully I get that other theory out, but who knows. Outro.